with a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
And welcome back to the New York Jets Atlantic Flight Podcast post 2026 NFL Draft. Andy's with us here today, and we did a podcast the other day. We only did the first round, so it's only fit and proper that we start at the second round with a little pocket rocket. But before we go there, we will just recap who we took in the first round. Do you want to kick us off, Andy? Who did we take first off?
Yeah, it feels like it was about 5 days ago now. But in the first round, the Jets took David Bailey, the edge from Texas Tech at second overall. Then at 16, they shocked everyone and took Kenyon Sadiq, the versatile tight end from Oregon. And we traded back up into the first round to take Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver from Indiana.
Yeah, and that was a really, really great first round. I think we mentioned this the other day. It was a little bit of a head scratcher when it was a bit reminiscent of Jackson Smith and Jigba, wasn't it? When Lemon was on the board, and all of a sudden everyone thought it was going to be Lemon, and we passed on him and we took Sadiq. But looking at this pick, I'm getting more and more into it as the days go by. And you're right, it feels like absolute days since that round one. I think it's fair to say that everyone involved in this draft, it's been going on for Jets fans for about what feels like about 6 months. So the culmination is quite enlightening to actually get to the end of it now. Omar Cooper, we traded back in. Absolutely brilliant. Love that pick. You've heard me talk about this on the podcast. He's been a little bit of a firm favourite of mine. Flip-flopping between him and Lemon. But over the moon that we've got these three guys. But it's in round two that things really, really got interesting. Round two, 18th overall. Cornerback out of Indiana. 5'9", of pocket rocketness. D'Angelo Pons. How impressed were you with D'Angelo Pons in his college season, Andy?
You can't really fault Pons the way he played at Indiana. I mean, he's such a kind of exciting, aggressive, technically sound corner to watch play. And I think 5'9" is being generous to him.
Yeah, it is.
And this is where kind of it got a bit of a mixed reaction, this pick. I know you were over the moon. I never expected any difference. I was just really surprised when we took him because I'd kind of convinced myself that like Glenn has a type at corner. And I know he was a smaller corner, but that his type was the longer, kind of rangier corners. But when you think about it, the way that Glenn played, we've seen how well DJ Reed played. When Glenn was at Detroit, he had Amik Robinson for a year, who had his best year as a pro under Glenn as well. So I think it taught me a lesson about assuming what Glenn wants in his players, because D'Angelo Pons has that attitude, that aggressiveness that I think is more in line with what the team is kind of trending towards. So yeah, after I kind of got over the surprise of it all, I was really excited.
Yeah, it was a really good pick. As you pointed out, I was super excited by it. I was kind of like under the radar, liking him. Didn't really voice my opinion too much. Then Will Parkinson put something on Twitter saying how much he liked him. And I thought, oh, well, Christ, let's go for it. And I've nailed my colours to the mast as well. As you say, 5'9", I think is being generous. I think officially on his combine, he was something like 5'8 3/4" or something like that, which I still think was in his heels, but definitely wasn't in his socks. But this guy, he is a tackling machine. I'll tell you what I really, really like about him. You would never know that he's 5'9", but what he does is he makes that size work for him. When he goes up against some of these taller receivers, he plays a lot like, I'm not saying he is like him, but he has the same playing style like Revis. He'll get under those pads, he'll let those receivers jump, and he'll just knock you out of the way. And he can get in there. He can get a big old mitt in between that ball as well. I don't know how he manages to elevate himself, but he plays so much bigger. He disrupts routes as well. So if you've got a receiver that is a good route runner, they're going to have to be really good and get separation, because he's really, really good at all that disruption stuff. His tallied stats are 60 tackles, 2 interceptions in 2025 and 31 passes defended. And of course, he's reunited with his teammate Omar Cooper Jr., which I think is always a good thing, especially when you've got these rookies, these high-end rookies, when they do get reunited with a player from the same college. Do you like that?
Yeah, it's always nice to see it happen, and particularly when it's two of these guys. I think throughout this process, kind of heard them both kind of talking each other up across different platforms and stuff. I know Pons was the one who came out and kind of compared Cooper to Devontae Adams, the way he has like a really like varied release package and how he was really difficult to cover during practices and stuff. And Cooper was coming out saying how aggressive and like enthusiastic Pons is and stuff. So it's clear that they like got each other's back and stuff. So yeah, it's always nice to get two players in who've recently won a national championship together.
I thought this was really interesting as well. And it's kind of like, we've alluded to this before, isn't it? When you go and watch tape on someone, so you're going to go and watch tape on player X, and you're watching player X, and then all of a sudden you're kind of noticing player Y on the same team or the opposite team, whatever. All of a sudden someone else ends up catching your eye, and you start watching player X and you start watching player Y. Well, I think the same thing was happening with Muji. So apparently, when they were interviewing wide receivers, one of the questions that they asked was, who was one of the best cornerbacks that you've come up against, or who was a cornerback that you didn't want to come up against? And a lot of them said D'Angelo Pons. So I think that's gone a long way. Obviously, it's connections that players make, and comparisons, and their feeling about players. You can't get that from the combine. You can't get that from game tape, but you can get it in interviews, which is why they are so important as well. So when you've got the 30 visits, and when you've got the pro days, and when you've got the combine, and you're actually physically talking to these guys, it's not just about what they've done on the field. It's also what's going on the field between them, between the ears. So I thought that was a really interesting take.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and sort of Pons as a player as well. People are kind of worried about some of the measurables and stuff like that, but Pons kind of, the reason that he was able to be so effective is because he gets past those limitations with his speed and his athleticism. He didn't run the 40, probably because he didn't think he needed to, but he put up a 43.5-inch vertical jump, which is absolutely insane as well. So he's got the kind of innate skills to get around the physical limitations that he's got. And I genuinely think he's going to play outside. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't think the Jets have taken him at 50 to have him play part-time as a slot
No,
corner, especially not in
no,
2026.
no, not at all. Yeah, on draft night they were saying that he'll probably. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah um, alluded to. He'll probably play slot. I don't see that at all.
Yeah,
He didn't play
John.
that much. I think he did play occasionally, spelled at slot in Indiana, but mostly he was an outside corner, and he just excelled it. I know that college isn't in the NFL; it is very different. It is a huge jump up, but I think he was playing way above college level. He was definitely one of the top corners. I'm so surprised he just fell to round two. And we talked briefly off air about this. I think if he'd been over 6 foot, do you reckon he would have gone in the first round? Some teams may be put off by his size.
Yeah, God, yeah. If he'd have had, say, the size of sort of some of the other guys, even if he'd just been like 2.5 inches taller, he'd probably have been getting talked about in the first round. It's strictly due to the size, I think, that he fell.
Yeah, I think it's better to say, if you're not a fan of D'Angelo Pons, I think you will be. I think when the season starts, you will be a fan. I was going to mention this as well. At the moment, we've still got Brownlee playing the nickel, playing the slot, but it's also been rumoured that Malachi Moore, because all of a sudden we do have quite a few safeties coming into the team now. I think Malachi Moore might be spelling at the slot as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who does actually end up playing that nickel. But I don't think it's going to be D'Angelo Pons. I think you're right. I think he will play outside, and I'll be surprised if by the end of the season he isn't cornerback one. I'll be surprised by the end of training camp that he's not cornerback one. He's a dog. He's a locker room presence. Just love the pick. It is by far my favourite pick in the draft. So there we go. Should we do the next one up? Darrell Jackson. This was a bit of a concern as well. So we picked Pons, and now we go into the 4th round. And it's something that I was a little bit concerned about. We got T'Vondre Sweat, which we traded for in the off season. Brilliant run stopper, huge presence. But we really missed on taking somebody that was going to be able to spell T'Vondre Sweat in games. So we've signed at pick 4. Sorry, I'm losing myself here. Darrell Jackson Jr. DT. He is a massive run stopper. He's 6'6", 315 pounds. He's got 35-inch arms, so he can keep those defenders well away from him. He started all 12 games in 2025, 75 tackles, 4.5 sacks over his 2 seasons at FSU. He met the Jets at the Combine and felt, he said, a strong connection during the draft process. So not really surprised for him, but very glad to be a Jet. How did you like the Darrell Jackson signing?
Yeah, it was a good start to day 3. I mean, there were other players on the board that, like, I personally would have prepared and all that sort of noise, you know, people throwing out draft grades based on that sort of thing. But when you're on day 3, you want to take people who are just really good at that one thing that they do. And like you say, he's that bigger body guy who's going to be a good rotational piece and like a developmental guy. I think Glenn actually used the exact words a couple of times in the press conference at the end, was that they took guys that have traits that they can develop on, that these guys aren't the finished product and they're going to get in. He said a quote, and I'm going to find it for later on because I loved it. But Jackson's just that type of guy. Like you say, he's got all the physical traits. He just needs to work on the technique, and you're not expecting him to start or anything else. He's just there to be part of the defensive line rotation.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move. The next one was a bit of a head scratcher, wasn't it? So we had 2 4th round picks, and the second one was Cade Klubnik. We traded up, was it 18 spots to take him? Quarterback out of Clemson, a senior. Much expected of Klubnik while he was there. Seemed to, for some reason, just fall off a cliff edge in college. Don't know. You'll probably know more about this than I do. He threw for 2,943 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So it's a good ratio in 2025. He was actually hoping that the Jets would pick him. So he did have a really good meeting. And I'm just going to pull this up as well. This is a quote from ESPN. This is a quote. The move is widely seen as a directive from offensive coordinator Frank Reich. Reich held a private workout with Klubnik at Clemson and was impressed by his football brain, accuracy, and competitive nature. Reports suggest that the Jets were so focused on securing Klubnik for Reich's scheme that they moved up 18 spots to ensure that they wouldn't lose him to another team. So maybe there was a little bit of a rumour that someone might be going to take him and he just wasn't going to be there. So 18 spots. The only bit I didn't like about this, I just thought, well, if we're not picking a quarterback that you feel is definitely going to be a backup or is definitely going to be in the mix for being a starter, i.e. a round 1 or a round 2 quarterback, I just didn't want us to start wasting picks on developmental players when we could be getting more picks for depth. So initially, when we made this pick, I was quite disappointed. It's nothing to do with the player. It was more to do with, at that point, what I considered to be just a wasted pick. But if this is how Frank Reich, and I'm assuming that Bill Musgrave is in on this as well, if that's how they feel, then props to them. Go with your convictions, and who knows, we might have some gold. Andy, what do you know about Klubnik?
Yeah, so Klubnik was a really there were a lot of expectations around Klubnik for a long time. From when he came into Clemson back in 2022, he took over as the starter in 2023, and he had an okayish season in 2023. It weirdly, statistically, it looks a lot like his season in 2025. But then in 2024, him and Clemson kind of exploded, and he threw for over 3,600 yards. He had 36 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in 2024, which kind of was what was the driver of the expectation that he was going to be a Heisman finalist. He was going to be in contention to be number one off the board in this draft. And then, like we know, Clemson just kind of collapsed, like an ice cream cake in the sun. And it all just went wrong last year. He didn't get a lot of help. The offensive line was really poor. Lots of drops from the receivers. I don't really know what Clemson's offensive coordinator does, if he draws up plays in crayon or something, but it was all just really poor. But Klubnik didn't help any of that. All of kind of his problems, like not being able to deal with pressure particularly well, making poor decisions on when to run and when to throw the ball, staring down receivers, all that sort of stuff that you saw him doing in 2024. All of that just took over, and he had a really bad year. I have no issue with Klubnik in the fourth round. He was still one of my favourite quarterbacks, even despite the issues. I think he's just got too much talent to not be good. He's instantly better than Brady Cook and Bailey Zappi. I don't think he's going to be behind them on the depth chart once they get him into camp. And apart from the trade up, which I hated the trade up. I hated losing that other fourth round pick. There was so much talent left on the board at that point. I love the pick itself because, and here's my kind of question to everyone, not just to you, is if you don't trust Frank Reich and Bill Musgrave to turn Cade Klubnik into a backup quarterback in the NFL, why do you trust them to turn whoever we take next year into an NFL starter?
Bingo.
If they can't turn someone like Klubnik with his talent into a backup,
Yeah.
what are they going to do with someone else?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Oh, absolutely. I fully endorse that question. That conundrum is exactly. You've got to take these swings. They're professionals, and I'll tell you what as well. When you look at who Bill Musgrave has coached, he's been in the league 21 years. He's coached. Go and Google all the players, all the quarterbacks that Bill Musgrave has coached, and there's some pretty impressive names out there. So I'm fairly confident that if they see something in Klubnik, and correct me if I'm wrong here, wasn't he projected to have been a top 5 pick a couple of years ago?
Yeah. I mean that's been the expectation with him the whole time. It just that whatever happened in Clemson last year has cursed everyone. For some reason though, Klubnik's the only player that people felt became undraftable after that. With people like Woods and Parker and Williams, it was always the refrain of, well, they didn't forget how to play football, so you can't. They're not terrible. You can still take them high. But with Klubnik, it was just, oh no, he had a bad year. Forget him. He's done. Just for anyone who's not convinced, just go and watch 2024 Klubnik. It's not perfect. There's lots to be concerned about, but watch him in 2024 and try to explain to yourself why that player can't be a backup in the NFL. Because that's what you're taking in the fourth round. You're taking a backup. And if you don't think he can be a backup after watching 2024 film, fine.
Was Clemson a bad team, or were they badly coached? Because they seem to have really good players on there, but as we know, this is a team sport. There's no I in team. So was it badly coached, or was it something else?
I think it has to be because, like you say, if you've got a team with that much talent on that doesn't do well, it is down to the coaching. It has to be. There's no other explanation for it. You can have like bad apples on teams that ruin the culture and stuff, but again, that is a failure of coaching as well. So I think if you've got the players and things aren't working out, the only problem behind it must be the coaching. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah. I think I agree with that, because we've seen teams with not so good talent but really, really good coaching play amazing seasons. So I think it does come down. It's down to the coaching. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the coaches. You got these players in the first place, and if they weren't good enough, then that's down on you. Or if they're not responding and taking your tutelage, that's also down on you. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with the coaches. So I'm quite happy for everything that you've just pointed out, for taking Klubnik, and exactly the same reason as well, losing that extra fourth. But at the end of the day, if they've got the convictions about him, brilliant, go for it. And as you said, you know more about Klubnik than I do. If he's an instant upgrade over Zappi and Christ, I can't think of the other guy now.
Brady Cook.
Brady Cook, yeah. Oh my God, I've forgotten Brady Cook's name. Oh my goodness, it's because it's PTSD. Yeah, I'll be happy if he doesn't see the field again. I did have expectations for him, but I didn't think he came into a good situation. And I think there was a little bit of the Zach Wilson's about him. I think the whole game just got to him in the end, at the back end of that season. But hopefully he'll bounce back, whether he's with us or somebody else. But training camp's going to be interesting. I don't think we'll take too many more players for Camp Arms, but it's going to be an interesting battle for the backup role there. But let's hope, fingers crossed. Hey, if Klubnik develops over this season, we might not even need to take a quarterback next year when we've got 3 first-round picks. I know it's a long shot, but stranger things have happened, haven't they?
Don't do it, Gus. Don't make me believe. Don't make me believe that we could be sitting there with 3 first-round picks and just take Jeremiah Smith and whoever the other 2 best players are in that draft and let other people worry about quarterbacks again.
You know, they say, as Ted Lasso said, it's the hope that kills you. Next up, let's get to the next one. We've got 2 more picks left, a 6th rounder and a 7th rounder, and the next one up, another really good player. And I don't know about you, but I think that this guy stands quite a good chance of actually having a starting role, possibly over Parham. Anez, is that how you pronounce it? Anez Cooper. I don't really know too much about him. I've seen the name, but I don't know too much about him. So I am reading this to you. It says he's a durable right guard with 45 career starts. This is very interesting. And this is probably one of the reasons why they've gone after him. Allowed 0 sacks on 816 pass blocking snaps last season, which is just phenomenal. There is a Jet connection. He played at Miami alongside Francis Mauigoa, who's obviously the brother of the Jets linebacker, Kiko Mauigoa. So there's a bit of a reunion going on there. Do you know anything about Anez Cooper?
No, same as you. It's not someone that I've watched a lot of. Just read a couple of things about him overnight. And the quote that Glenn gave, because he was talking particularly about Jackson and Cooper when he said this, is he said, "Mass kicks ass," and I think that should be on t-shirts that the Jets print, because this guy is massive and he's one of those people. He's a people mover, and I'm just really glad that we tried to address guard, because I think definitely the hope for him in 2027 is that he will take over from whoever it is that needs to move out, whether it be Parham or whether or not, what's his name? Oh my God, why can't I remember our other guard's name? The tall fella.
Tippmann.
I can't remember his name. He was our centre. Oh God, it's
Myers.
all going wrong.
Tippmann, what? Myers, Parham.
Tippmann, that's the guy. So if Tippmann has to kick back into centre long term and all those sorts of things, I like the fact that they've taken a swing at guard to try and address it.
I wanted them to take. Go on, you go on.
No, I was just going to say that when you're picking guards and things like that, you just want to go for big people, and he is a big person. I like it when we take big people into the defensive line.
Oh, totally with you. You feed the beast, keep them all fed, and you have 300-pound fatties just moving people all over the place. Just love it. Sorry for calling someone a fatty, but hey, it's all in jest. But I was actually hoping that we were going to take a centre that could also play guard, and the 3 of them, Myers, Tippmann, and Rookie, just scrap it out in a training camp battle. I do think though, I read somewhere that Tippmann actually prefers playing guard. So if he's happy at playing guard, then leave him playing. I'm all for keeping players happy. I think that was the thing with AVT as well, when he was just getting literally moved all over that line. He never really complained about it, but he did get asked at the end of the season where he wanted to play, and he did say right guard. which is when they plugged him in, and obviously that didn't work out, and obviously Titman then filled in for him. But yeah, don't really know too much about this guy, but I have seen, since we've made this pick, I've seen some highlight reels of him, and boy, yeah, this guy can move, and I think the run game is going to be mightily improved if this guy's on the field. Do you see a world where he could bypass Parham? I don't want to take it away from Parham, because I think Parham's a really good left guard.
Well, yeah, I think the contract that they've given Parham doesn't really lock him in as a starter anyway. So I think that there is a world where if Cooper comes into camp and impresses people, maybe not at the start of the season, but he could make the job his. All of them have got the opportunity to do that. And he definitely could be moving people down the depth chart if he plays well.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some positional battles that some we're kind of expecting, some we're not kind of expecting. And obviously we are going to have a camp darling come in that everyone thinks is going to make the 53 and won't, because that happens every single year. We've pretty much done that. We're going to go to the last pick in the 7th round. It was a long draft, wasn't it? I'm absolutely knackered, and I know we spoke off you are as well. It just seems like we've been doing this forever and ever and ever. So very, very glad that this is all in the books. And our last player, he is listed as a safety. VJ Payne, picked 7th round, 228th overall. He's listed as a safety, but there is a chance that he could possibly be converted to cornerback. Sorry, he's from Kansas City State and he's a senior. And it's quite weird how he actually got to us, because this is via the Cowboys, via the Bills, via the Raiders, finally to the Jets. So it's quite the route to get here. Long and rangy. So this is what traditionally that we feel that kind of player that Glenn goes after. Long rangy, 42 game starter and team captain. So again, there's that character thing. He can play inside and the box, over the slot, and split safety. So he's a bit of a jack of all trades. In some respects, he reminds me a little bit of Malachi Moore with his versatility. I'm going to guess the answer here. How much do you know about VJ Payne?
Yeah, not a great deal, to be perfectly honest. I know he was a lot higher on people's boards than he went in the end. He was projected to go like very early on day 3. So he was one of those ones that hung around. Like you say, he is versatile, but he's quick as well. His athletic profile is really, really good. And I suppose that's the ideal kind of player to take for like the defensive backfield late on day 3, someone that you can try out in a couple of roles. He spent most of his time playing in the box as a safety or in the slot. So I would imagine that that's kind of where they'll at least see him starting out. And that's sort of a weird thing with our safety room, apart from Andre Cisco. Like you said, Malachi Moore is really versatile. Minka Fitzpatrick was talked about wanting to play closer to the line and more in the box, and now we bring in this guy as well. So I have a feeling that there's not really going to be one guy who plays each of these positions. You could see them flexing around a lot, which could be quite cool to watch and quite difficult for offenses to get a handle on as well. If they're going to move around and play multiple roles. But ultimately as well, it's remembering that this guy is a 7th round pick, and there's also a good chance he won't see the field next year. Same for Cooper and Jackson and all those guys as well. There's a chance that they might not play at all next year, but it's cool to think about what could be with them.
Yeah. It's that's a good point to just bear in mind. Going back on what you were saying as well, the versatility. When you've got players that can play these multiple positions, and as Jets fans, we know what this is about. When you don't have to sub players in and out all the time, so all of a sudden you've got 12 men on the field, that's a real helper as well. So if you can rotate these guys, that's one of the reasons why I liked the Reese pick as well. That's water under the bridge, not going back there. But yeah, versatility is all part and parcel of these new hybrid defenses that we're seeing. Something else that is quite interesting with VJ Payne, he's got a massive wingspan, 81 inches. One thing I can guarantee, and this isn't a hot take, the one thing I can guarantee is we will double our interception rate next year. guarantee it. Go and put money
Well,
on it.
not to get too mathsy on you, Gus, but the double of zero is
It's
still
still
zero.
zero. Yeah, yeah. You know what I
We
mean.
need to do a little bit more than that. I
You're
just
right.
want one. You know when you just want to get just an interception the first game, so people aren't talking about it for weeks.
You
And
know it.
it's got to be game one of the regular season, because if it's in the pre-season, people won't let it go. They'll say, "Oh, it doesn't count. It's not the regular season." Just do it. The first play, just pick someone off, please.
Well, we will get the first interception, and it won't count because it'll be a holding or DPI or something like that as well. You know it. So, right. Well, that's
Gus, if
out.
that doesn't work, I'm supposed to be the pessimistic, miserable one. Gus, you can't do stuff like that. That's my job.
Sorry, dude. So, how do you feel, all in all, before we get onto the undrafted free agents, which this is going to be a really quick segment because neither of us know anything about these guys. So it's going to be literally reading them to you in case you don't know who they are. But nonetheless, it's worth mentioning because they've made the team, which is an incredible feat in itself. So how do you rate our draft picks? So I am between B plus and A minus on this draft. The only reason that I haven't given it an A or even an A plus, it wasn't going to be an A plus, is the David Bailey pick, and this is not a knock on him. I just would have preferred Reese, but I, there's also a lot of background about David Bailey which I didn't know about. The Jets have had a lot of talks with David Bailey, which is why his 30 visit got cancelled, which was like alarm bells for everybody. Oh my God, they're out on David Bailey. No, there was a lot going on. I think David Bailey is going to be absolutely fine. And we talked about this before. Out of the box, I think he's going to be a better edge rusher, which is what we need, than Reese probably was going to be. I'm quite happy. So we've got three first round picks that I'm sure are all going to contribute. D'Angelo Pons in the second round is going to contribute. Daryl Jackson in the fourth round as a backup, he's going to contribute. Kay Klubnik, we hope he doesn't contribute, not unless he blows the socks off. You've got Cooper, the guard. He's probably going to come in maybe garbage time or if there's an injury or something like that. And then we've got our seventh round pick, VJ Payne, who probably in all likelihood will end up on the practice squad. But you never know. These guys, again, as you mentioned, this guy was meant to have been projected to have been the fourth or fifth round pick. So fair play picking up these players. So overall, I'm like quite happy with like a B plus, A minus on this. Where would you stand on ranking it? And this is just for fun. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I know. That's fine. I mean, I'm quite a harsh grader on things in general. Just ask my students. But I tend to go on the lower end of things. So for me, in a very positive way, I'm more like a C plus B minus with this one, just because I think when you do things like take a tight end over one of the best wide receivers in the first round, when you trade 2 fourth round picks for a quarterback who you probably could have just taken at 128, when it's a little bit, and when you take physical outliers like Pons, although I'm really excited about the pick, when you do things like that, it's risky business, and you kind of have to see it work before you can say that they've nailed it. And I am quite low on the Bailey pick personally as well. So while I'm giving it that grade, that's still really positive. I like this draft quite a lot in certain parts, but a lot of it I'm gonna have to see it before I believe it. But maybe that's just the past like 20 years of being a Jets fan has made me. I don't buy into hype anymore. You've got to show me. You've got to show me it's changed.
I'm constantly a glass half full guy. I think it's probably to protect my sanity, to be perfectly honest, because I've been down the whole half glass empty thing as well. So I've flipped it over. It's just like life's too short. Try and find the positives. Yeah. So that's what I'm focusing on. Talking of positives, there's been some positive moves for some more young men. They didn't get drafted, but they are on a team. I woke up this morning, so I went to bed last night. No one had been taken. No UDFAs had been taken. which sometimes they are. The phone will ring at the end of the round of end of the 7th round. UDFA's phones are ringing, and by the time it gets reported, it's sort of like about within the hour of it happening, and there was nothing that had happened. Woke up this morning and there was an absolute flurry of activity, and the Jets were another team that have picked up some players. I'll just run through them. If any of these catch your eye, jump in. So out of Louisville, wide receiver Colin Lacey, local boy, wide receiver out of Rutgers, D.T. Sheffield. I don't know if that's his position. No, wide receiver. Beg your pardon. That's confusing me. His name's D.T. Sheffield, and he's a wide receiver out of Rutgers. That had me there. We've got 2 running backs, one out of Toledo, Chip Trayanum, and we've got another one out of Wyoming, Sam Scott. You're very quiet, Andy. We've got an
I'm
offense.
just listening. Just
We've,
listening.
We got another Xavier on the team, Xavier Hill, or is it Xavier? We never really understand which one it is. But anyway, Xavier or Xavier Hill, offensive line, doesn't say where, out of Colorado. Another guy, Chase Curtis, another tight end. Not quite sure which college he's come from because he's listed as TCU or TSU. So not quite sure what's happened there. But anyway, we've got another tight end. So I believe we've got 4 tight ends now on the team. Back over to the defense. Kendrick Blackshire, linebacker out of UTSA. Maury Bamba, a cornerback out of BYU. Now, this guy I have seen play, and I have heard of his name before. No idea where, but I've watched highlight reels of him this morning as well, and he's all over Twitter this morning. Very, very grateful. Nathan Voorhees, edge out of Ball State, so another reasonably local lad as well. And then we move to special teams. 2 players on special teams. Will Ferrin, kicker, BYU, and Garrison Grimes, long snapper, BYU. Now, you've probably heard me say BYU 3 times. I have. I've said BYU 3 times. And I think it's quite telling, Andy, that we've got a kicker and a long snapper out of the same uni. I'm not familiar with their work, but obviously they've worked together. Could our longest tenured Jet, Tanner, I can't remember his name now. It's just escaped me. Our long snapper that's been with us for like a million years. Do you think that things could be getting shaken up?
How could you forget the GOAT, Thomas Hennessy's
Thomas
name?
Hennessy, of course, yeah. Just like the brandy.
Yeah, I had to do it as well. And how dare you not be grinding long snapper tape from BYU for 6 months as well? Yeah, I
Goodness.
had no idea either. Yeah, I had no idea. There must be some connection there for them to go to that well twice. And we've got to remember as well that Hennessy's been there for a long time, but I think it was probably because Boyle was there for so long as well. But now there's nobody at the organisation that kind of brought Hennessy on. He's really expensive from a long snapper point of view as well. So maybe they are looking to move on. It will be sad in a way because it's weird. He's kind of like part of the furniture of the Jets now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to find out as we go through this kind of process of discovering more about these guys, what that connection is to the BYU special teams.
How many kickers are we going? Let's have a little straw poll here. How many kickers are we going into training camp week 1? How many at the moment? So we've got 2 at the moment.
Oh, you know what? I reckon it's 4. I reckon we take 4 into training camp and it literally becomes 2 again after like a week. But I reckon that they bring in a proper competition.
Yeah, let's hope so. Last year, obviously, we let 2 veterans go, and everyone's like, "What are we doing?" Oh, my memory's going. So McNamara was the player that I'm trying to remember anyway. So we let a veteran punter go last year, and we ended up having McNamara, and he turned into being one of the best punters in the league. So you never know. It's weird, Andy, isn't it? That kicking, you think kicking and punting, you'd be able to just like drop one and pick another one up anytime, anywhere, and you'd have some, some consistency. It isn't that difficult a job, or is it?
Well, it's going through a bit of a renaissance at the moment, isn't it, with the changes to the kicking rules? And I think I'm weird, but I'm quite excited to see what they kind of bring out this year, because I was reading some articles last year about stuff that people were practicing in practice obviously, about kicking in certain ways that led to weird bounces and stuff
Oh yeah,
like that,
yeah,
but they were too afraid to try it. And so we could see some really weird kind of kicks coming in this year. So I think the ability to not only make these humongous 60+ yard kicks that some of them are making now, but also to be able to do these weird little kickoffs, I think it could become quite a weirdly niche skill set again, and not just let's go get him off his couch sort of position, which
yeah.
is quite exciting. And I think McNamara was the best punter in football. I don't care what was decided at the end of the year. McNamara was great.
Yeah, I mean the amount of times he was kicking and pinning teams in the within their 5 yard line was just, or the 10 or the 20. It was just phenomenal. Unfortunately, we couldn't stop a nosebleed. We were getting that great field position, and just like, even when teams were just running the ball, it's just like we still couldn't stop them. So we couldn't really take advantage of that. So if we've got McNamara punting half as what he did last year, this year, with the defense that we've got that will be able to stop the run, I think our offense are going to reap benefits. So we might start seeing games where we actually put up 30+ points a game, which would be pretty cool. And over 49 yards passing.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute there. Yeah, that would be nice. Getting some actual production from the offense would be great.
Mate, I think we've just about done this one to death. I'm sorry, everybody. We are absolutely exhausted. We said this just before we came on. Hence, we just keep forgetting stuff. I'm sure other people listening to this will have some capacity to understand what we've all been through, because we're absolutely knackered. Tonight, going to bed at a normal time and not getting up at stupid o'clock to watch the draft. This is over for this year. We've got all these undrafted free agents coming in. It isn't the end. There will be more coming and going. Thanks, Andy, for coming on. And for everyone that's listening, thank you for listening, and thank you for being with us this season. And we look forward to giving you more draft content in the upcoming year, getting towards the end of the college season. That'll be absolutely great. And of course, we'll be bringing you all the coverage from the training camps and any other moves that happen. So, Andy, got any closing comments?
No, just looking forward to getting a consistent just night's sleep, and then doing weird stuff like watching film on UDFAs for the next week.
My goodness, it never ends. I'm going to be looking at how to remember players' names. Thanks for listening, everybody. And as always, go Jets.
Y'all know what to say. On 3. 1, 2, 3.